Hello.
We're up on YouTube and we do have a quorum, so you can get started if you like.
Sounds good. I will. I'm going to go ahead and call to order the September 7th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting, and I'm going to go ahead and take roll call. Commissioner Heising.
Present.
Commissioner Labange.
Present.
Commissioner Maggio.
Present.
Vice Chair Radnich.
Present.
And Chair Farzan is present, and Commissioners Mason and Sturm are excused at this point. I know Commissioner Mason is excused. Commissioner Sturm may join, but at this point, she hasn't joined the meeting. With that, we'll move on. We do not have, actually, strike that. Do we have any public comments on anything not on tonight's agenda?
So if you are an attendee and would like to make a public comment on an item not on the agenda, please use the raise your hand function or *9 if you're calling in. I don't see any hands raised at this time.
Great, thank you. We don't have anything on the consent calendar, and we do not have any continued public hearings. So moving on to item 6, new public hearings. 6A, request for a reapproval of applications for TR 9462 outdo 3742 Diablo Valley LLC, which is a C zoning. It's a request for a major subdivision, and then related change of conditions to approve applications for DR 31-16 and TP 39-16 for Mr. Guerra, who is the owner. And with that, I will turn it over to staff. Is that going to be you, Sarah?
That's me.
Great, please.
Sure, so I'll just keep it brief. The item before you tonight is a request to reapprove 2 applications that were previously approved by the Planning Commission, but have since expired. So the project is located in the west end behind the Woodbury project and is not visible from Mount Temple Boulevard. But reapproving these 2 applications would allow for an additional 2-year time frame in order for the applicant to submit construction documents and also record a condo map. The Planning Commission approved the track to convert an existing office building into 6 condos in 2017. And the Design Review Commission reviewed and approved an application to remodel the exterior of the existing building. But then subsequently, the Planning Commission approved the same building design, but as a demolition and reconstruction rather than a remodel in 2018. As mentioned, both approvals have expired, and the applicant is seeking reapproval with the same conditions. The proposal has not changed, and the relevant code sections have not changed, and thus the Planning Commission should be able to find that the project continues to meet the findings required for reapproval. As you know, residential dwelling units are permitted by right in the C zoning district, and this conversion is compatible with the general plan zoning and the surrounding development. There were several public comments that were received as part of the renoticing. Those were included as part of your staff report packet, and several of those concerns relate to access, maintenance of the private roadway, and then also construction impacts. The access easements are private and will require cooperation among the property owners to ensure the maintenance. And there are several conditions of approval requiring construction staging plan, as well as complying with current building codes, which will ensure impacts to adjacent properties are appropriately addressed. Staff is able to make the required findings and recommends the Planning Commission find the project exempt from CEQA and adopt the resolution reapproving both applications subject to conditions. I'm available for questions if you have any.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? It does not appear that we have any. I just have a procedural question just to make sure I understand, same footing here. This isn't a de novo where we're looking at it all over again. I think many of us have already approved this the last time around, and since it's the exact same issue, there's nothing that would technically hold this up, right?
Right, technically it is a de novo hearing. However, since the conditions haven't changed, you would have to be very specific about which findings you could no longer make and why in order to deny the project.
Okay, great, thank you. I appreciate that. I think Vice Chair Radnich.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I do have one question. Sarah, on the cover of the staff report in bold, it says change of conditions is for the demolition of the existing building. That's a change since last time we saw it. Wasn't that already part of it last time?
Correct. It's the same exact project description from what you approved last time. So you saw the tract initially, then Design Review Commission saw the building because it was just a remodel, but the Planning Commission is responsible for all new buildings in the downtown. And since they had to demolish and rebuild, it came back to Planning Commission for that change of conditions.
But this is not a change since last time. It's just because this is a copy from
Correct.
the last staff report. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Heising?
Yeah, I actually have a question for Sarah too. So I understand that we covered this at the last meetings. The road access is private, so I'm bringing up the comments that were made by the HOA next door at Woodbury to the south, and the comments about any potential damage to the road with the trucks coming in and out. That's a private matter. We already know that. But regarding the retaining wall, so here comes the question, Sarah. The long drawn out way I'm asking it. The geotech report will address just the foundations and the footings of the new building, or will it look at that wall that the commenter asked about that run along the south property line? Will it assess structures that are going to stay in the right of way that aren't proposed to be removed and rebuilt?
I wouldn't imagine. Yeah, I think that the contractor would be able to better answer the question.
Yeah, I was just going to say maybe that's better for the applicant when we get to that point. Okay, all right, thanks, Sarah.
Any other questions? It looks like we have none, so I will open up the floor for the applicant.
Go ahead, Nikhil. I think that you should take the first explanation, and I can answer some questions about the retaining wall.
Sure. So thank you, everyone, for having this and considering my application. The long and the short of it is that this was a previously approved building, which I was hoping to develop. Seems like the world changed and I wasn't able to start or finish the building. So I'm seeking reapproval. Hopefully, whatever construction costs and everything else will fall in line for me to be able to build it. That's the primary reason why this got delayed. And like Sarah said, nothing has really changed. In reference to the access, that's a private, there's an easement between me and the Woodbury HOA. So, and there's obligations on both sides to maintain the road and what we do. So that covers that. Similarly, there's an easement for the retaining wall. Just by way of background, the retaining wall was built by the developer who built the Woodbury condominium. And it has a very specific set of rules and maintenance and distances that you can build on and what you can do and where you can and cannot build based on extensive studies and structural design work which was done by the developer. I'm obligated to meet all the obligations there, and my contractor and I intend to do so. So I don't think either of those concerns, I mean, we will fully cooperate with the neighbors and be cognizant of their concerns and so on, but none of this stuff is, in my mind, anything significant out of the ordinary of what has to be done. The building is a small building. It's 3 stories, 2,000 square foot footprint. So pretty small in the scheme of things. And the structure is going to be, I think, 70 odd feet away from the Woodbury buildings. So even from that standpoint, it's not adjacent, touching or anything like that. Obviously it's the adjacent property, but the buildings are nowhere close to each other or anything like that. So I don't foresee any problems. But like I said, Jeff, who's my contractor, and I will fully cooperate with the neighbors on all sides to make sure that we are listening to them and coordinating with them as necessary to minimize any inconvenience to anyone. If anybody has questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Do we have any questions at this point? It doesn't look like we do.
Karen's waving.
Commissioner Maggio has her hand up. Maybe you don't see her.
We can't hear him.
Sorry, I didn't see it. So Commissioner Maggio.
That's okay. I'm new to this project, and so I just have a couple of questions. One being, this particular building is very similar to other buildings in adjacent to it. I was just curious, do you own those other buildings as well, or just this particular building?
Just this one.
I see. So it's different ownership on the others. It looks like they were probably developed at the same time.
You're absolutely right. They were developed at the same time, but this is the only one which was, carved out. The other 4 buildings have common ownership.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Do you have any other questions? I'm looking closely again. It doesn't look officially. Mr. Garrett, did you want to hand it off to anyone else?
Yeah, so I asked my contractor, Jeff, to attend, and he gracefully agreed to do so. He's obviously going much closer to the construction and has a lot of experience with this. So I'd like for him to just cover the construction so that everybody who's listening can kind of get a better feel for what we plan to do.
Thank you. Mr. Stone, you're up.
Hey, how are you guys? Thank you for having me this evening. It's nice to see you all. So we've been looking at this project for a few years. Clearly, the logistics planning on this site is probably one of the most important and critical pieces, just because you have ingress and egress for not only residential, but commercial as well. So you're going to have different time of when people are coming and going, which means that the thoughtfulness of the project management of when we're going to be bringing in materials, as well as bringing in any sort of equipment that needs to either off-haul demo, et cetera, needs to be thought through. The particular wall, we had a conference call with 3 of the members of the HOA this morning to have a conversation around the wall, the roadway, and any concerns there. Fortunately, we're so far away and we have a big enough site. And like Nikhil brought up, this is a 3-story wood structure, slab on grade. The construction doesn't require any sort of craning or any sort of heavy equipment other than a grade all. So we're pretty comfortable with the overall size. We will fence in our unit and to ensure that dust control and other means are taken to prevent any sort of nuisance to any of the neighbors. But anything that any questions that do arise, I explain that I'm available to meet. We want to be a good neighbor with the community. We understand that this particular site is going to have some issues with ingress and egress. We will be handling any flagging and transportation appropriately, and we'll be thoughtful about where we do any of our staging. As Sarah mentioned, a part of the conditions of approval, there will be a staging plan as well as a construction logistics plan that's required so that it's understood. I brought up with the HOA this morning, we could create a 20 to 25 foot barrier to that retaining wall. I did ask for the structural engineering as well as any soil engineering or review letters that were completed while that wall was built to see what surcharge as well as any other dynamics from a structural engineering standpoint that was built to, because I would assume based off of where it is and the overall roadway that the fire access would require some sort of loading and surcharge on that wall that would be much greater than any sort of equipment that I'm bringing onto the project. Last, if there's anything that's caused any harm, damage, or otherwise by our construction related activities, we'll clearly, as we always have, as most of you know, Diamond's been in Lafayette for 38 years now. We care about our projects. We care about the impact we leave behind. We'll definitely fix anything and make sure that the neighbors understand that we'll leave the site as well as any neighboring facilities or horizontal improvements better than we found them.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Stone? It does not look like we have any. And Sarah, do we have time left for the applicant?
They have 3 minutes left if they'd like it.
Okay, so I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Garrett, to see if there's anything else you'd like to add or anyone else on your team.
I'll ask Mike if he wants to say anything. Mike is from Ward Young, the architect. I don't have anything else to add beyond what Jeff said, and I hadn't mentioned it earlier, but we did reach out to the people who submitted those letters to have the same kind of conversation and walk them through what the process is. And I think we answered their questions. I'll hand it over to Mike now if there's anything else he thinks we missed that he'd like to cover.
Definitely. Thank you. Very good evening, everyone. I can speak a little bit to the wall. We were involved in the Woodbury development, so we understand what's happening. Before Mr. Guerra owned the property, there was an easement drawn, and the retaining wall that is on the Woodbury or for Woodbury is actually underpinned underneath Mr. Guerra's property to a certain distance in, which is defined by an easement. So the easement stops well before the building, and the grading on top of the easement is an acceptable method. So there's really there will be cautions taken, but there's no dangers to the wall's integrity. So that's it.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Musino? It does not appear so. I think with that, we'll close up the applicant's time and open it up to any public comment.
If you would like to make a public comment, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen, or *9 if you're calling in. I don't see any hands raised at this time.
Thank you. We're back to you, Mr. Guerra. If you have any rebuttal you'd like to add.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, good, thank you. I think with that, we'll bring it back to the commission. Thank you very much. And I'll open the floor to any of the commissioners. Commissioner Heising.
Thank you, Chair. So I can continue to make the findings as before, and I think it's totally reasonable that this project was put on hold during COVID. I work in my day job, I work on projects that have gone through the roof on pricing with the prices that have been going on during and after COVID. Well, COVID's still going on, but so I can continue to make the findings and find this item tonight totally reasonable, and would be happy to make a motion, but we'll hold for any other comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Maggio?
Yes, I just noticed in chat, we have a question that maybe the city can answer for this person in the public wanting to know what the hours of construction are, and they're pretty standard, particularly this is, I would consider residential areas. So maybe Sarah can comment on that. Just it's hanging out there, and I'd like to answer any questions that we can for the public.
Absolutely. I'm curious if maybe they just chatted you, because I'm not seeing it. In any case, it's just 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, or sorry, Monday through Saturday, and we allow work on Saturday in order for the project to be finished a little bit sooner than it otherwise might if we restricted it to Monday through Friday.
Thank you. Any other comments from the commissioners? All right, the only thing I can make the findings too, and the other thing I want to add, which we say regularly, I appreciate the fact that you talked to the neighbors, particularly the ones who wrote in. I think that's always a good approach to get things moving forward, so I applaud you for doing that. I think we say that regularly here, and it helps move projects further along. And again, I'll repeat, I can make all the findings here. I did before, and nothing has changed at this point. So I'm open to a motion, which I believe Commissioner Heising is ready to do so.
All right, I'll take that as a cue. Here I go. I propose we approve Planning Commission Resolution 2021-14, reapproving the project subject to conditions, and find the project exempt from CEQA.
Second.
Thank you. That was a second from Vice Chair Radnich. I will take the vote. Commissioner Heising?
Aye.
Commissioner Labange?
Aye.
Commissioner Maggio?
Aye.
Vice Chair Radnich?
Aye.
And Chair Farzan, aye. We have a 5-0 vote with 2 commissioners who are excused. Thank you very much. We are now to item number 7, which is
Thank
an
you
ARC.
all.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. We are now for an ARC volunteer for September 17th. These are still by Zoom, I assume.
Correct.
Great. Is that volunteering? Okay. Commissioner Maggio has volunteered for the 17th. Thank you. Moving on to item number 8. Do we have any commissioners' reports? You know who we always fall under. There we go. Vice Chair Radnich.
Yep, I can give one. We have not had, so GPAC update. We have not had I don't think we've had a GPAC meeting since we've met last, but we did have a special mission statement kind of workshop. So it was open to anyone in the public who wanted to sign up. Emails were sent out as advertised on the website. And it was an opportunity for members of the public to join, to break into small groups on breakout rooms and to provide their thoughts on the mission statement and the vision. And I think for the most part, the subcommittee members who are focusing on the mission statement, they were hosting the breakout rooms. For the most part, there were a couple others. And then for GPAC members who did attend, we only listened, didn't provide any input. So that was pretty interesting. So they're still working on that. And we have our next meeting. It's always on the 3rd Tuesday. So I don't know, in another week or two, however the calendar falls, probably next week. I think that's basically it. But are there any other commissioner reports? Because I do have something I think that's interesting that has come up on the GPAC, and I noticed it tonight here. So I'll let you, Chair, see if there's any other commissioner reports, and then I'd love to come back for a follow-up statement.
Thank you. I should add for that, I think public comments are open to the mission statement, et cetera. This Friday is the deadline. I believe 5 p.m. this Friday are the deadlines to weigh in on the proposed mission statement, et cetera.
Thank you.
I'll open up the floor. Do we have any other commissioner reports? We are back to Vice Chair Radnich.
So the thing so Sarah, I've noticed more so on GPAC than in Planning Commission, but it does happen in Planning Commission, and tonight was a perfect example of everyone wants to have a voice, and it's important that everyone from the public has a voice. And more so in GPAC, we see a lot of comments that come through on the comment feature in Zoom, just like tonight. So that meeting did that comment did show up in the general kind of comment box. And so I was wondering, how are those comments captured? Because sometimes it's a repeat of someone who has, raised their hand and taken their 3 minutes to speak. Sometimes it's cheering on another speaker. Sometimes it's a question like tonight. So I'm just kind of curious of the protocol, or how's the city track those? I personally wish people would take the 3 minutes to, call out their name and speak, but I know that this is a feature of Zoom. Just curious what the city's doing there to track those kind of comments.
Sure. And actually, I do see it now. I had the panelist list.
Yeah, it's hard.
Chat, yeah. Which is right before. So yeah, I mean, we end up taking some screenshots of them. It's not formal. It's not like the official, like if you were to write in or to speak. But we take in GPAC, we take some screenshots of those comments just to make sure that we are capturing kind of the sentiment. So yeah, we would definitely encourage folks to actually speak or to write in if they don't feel comfortable speaking.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so I agree, I like the questions, but then there becomes a technicality. you're not taking your 3 minutes to speak. So the question is, can we answer it, right? And I actually want the questions answered, right? And I think it was good that Commissioner Maggio pointed that out. I just want to make sure that we're following the rules. If somebody posts something up there, that we can answer that. This was fairly simple, right? But if it's something more complicated, I'm wondering if we have to have somebody become a speaker to answer those questions. So I think it's a good thing to put out there. I don't know what the answer is to that
Well,
question.
Yeah, and Chair, something that happens a lot in GPAC is the comments come in when it's not public comment period, right?
Right.
So oftentimes, even like on our agendas, we'll take comments for that item, right? And then we'll move to the next item. And so that does also get into a gray area, or maybe not so gray, of public comment period being closed, but it is a received comment. So yeah, I agree. Tonight was not a big deal. That was a 19-minute, item, but
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think I think it's good to have the conceptualize what those rules are so we can do it, because we're going to have more, let's just say,
Mhm.
elaborate issues that come up, or more questions are going to come forward. So it would be good to have a process in place. So I'm glad you brought that out. Commissioner Maggio, I apologize. I wasn't putting you off. So you're up.
No, I host webinars for a UC program, and so we get a lot of questions through chat, and we also have a Q&A box in the format that we use. So even though Zoom has just been a lifesaver for us during COVID-19, allowing us to be online and communicate, to meet and to teach and all those great things, one of the real shortcomings is anything in the chat box or the Q&A box, once you close the meeting, disappears forever. There's no record of it. Unless, like Sarah said, you're taking screenshots of it. So that's a real problem. So I know we try our darndest for the UC program to get through every question or Q&A so that it's recorded. So that's the challenge. I mean, we even put 3 or 4 people behind the scene typing answers, and we'll get maybe 100+ questions on one of our webinars. So that it's just, I'm really glad Anna brought it, or Commissioner Radnich brought it up, because it's a real shortcoming for Zoom and the whole public process.
Yeah, and I think we can talk amongst the commission, and also obviously the staff, to see if there's something we need to do. And again, I say this to make sure city attorney would sign off on it, to make sure we're following the rules, because as Vice Chair Radnich also pointed out, if it's outside the public comment period, can they do it? Because you have the structure in place. So I'm all in favor of it. Let's just make sure we're doing it right. With that, I will see if we have a planning director's report.
No report today.
Oh, wow. With that, I will adjourn tonight's meeting. It was very quick. Have a great rest of the week, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
thank
This is
you.
going to be a record.
It isn't, but it
Unlike
isn't.
tenure, I think it's under 30 minutes. I mean, you